Hey gang, Joyce with Skipping Calves Farms here. Spring has definitely sprung. We've got something going on with our apple trees. I'm not sure if it's nutrition, disease, or pest, but it's not the first time I've seen it. Everything will come out real nice and green, and then the brand new leaves at the end will wilt and turn brown. So I don't know if it's a zinc deficiency. Could be that, could be copper, could be pest issues. I've not checked the bricks on the apple trees, so I'm not sure of the bricks reading. Anytime you take a reading from vegetation, if you've got a reading in the 8 to 10, you may have a pest problem. Anything 8 and below, yeah, your plant, whatever it's going to be, is going to be a pest magnet, because that's basically what insects are. They're the garbage collectors. And so the bricks reading gives you a reading of the status of the sap of the plant in terms of dissolved minerals and amount of sugars. And so that bricks reading and whether the line is fuzzy or clear will give you a really good indication of the health of your plants. I know my chemistry is way out of line, so I've not been diligent in pursuing that. What I've been doing for the last 2 weeks is this. Excuse me. I have been cleaning and stacking used sheet metal. I'm hoping to get me a she shed. Give me a little room to work and take some of my work stuff out of my greenhouse and different other things. But over the last couple of weeks, I've actually been able to develop a pretty good system for cleaning the stuff off of the sheet metal, and I thought I'd take a few minute break and explain them to you. As is often the case, I can't really show you per se, but I'll do the best that I can. First off, let me come back over here to this table. A couple pieces of really important equipment. And I've discovered some of these along the way through the process, but one is nitrile gloves. Now I like these. These are some pretty heavy duty. These are not the super duper cheap ones. What I will do is between panels, I'll come over here and get a break. Takes me between half an hour and an hour plus to do a single panel. Yeah, it's a lot of work. You can see some of the goopy on my fingers, but you also see a WD-40 dispenser. I've been using the liquid WD-40 for the better part of 10 years. I like it a lot better than the aerosol. I still have half a gallon left. And one of those aerosol cans, you're lucky if it lasts you 6 months to a year, and they're like what, $10, and I paid like 19 or 20 for the gallon. And I got this pistol grip sprayer. I think I got it at Northern Tools for a couple $3. What's my point? My point is this: I'll just take, and when the gloves are on my fingers, I'll just barely get just a tiny little bit of WD-40, and I'll spread it around the fingers, especially the index and thumb, and I'll rub my hands together kind of like you do when you're washing your hands. So I get a light coating. You can kind of see here in the grooves how it's real shiny. That's because there's still a little bit left there. But it does get kind of used up. Why do I do that? It keeps the putty from sticking to my fingers. and I'll also put a little WD-40 on my scraping tool. Now I started out using a paint scraper, and that was difficult to work with. You know, the handle's not all that long. This putty, when it's 50 degrees outside, is really stiff. When it's 90 degrees outside, it's really sticky. 70, 80 degrees is really kind of primo. And it's really a lot easier when you've got some cloud cover like we've got now. Whoops, almost fell. I was standing on the ramp. So there is some haze. We had some high-flying planes earlier. So we don't have a hot sun. So the putty is soft, but not too terribly sticky, which is actually pretty much the primo thing. Now, that's just a rag. This is just a pistol grip sprayer full of water. This is a 12-inch crowbar, stainless crowbar. They are also sold as hive tools. I'm also a beekeeper. I don't keep as many bees as I used to, but that's hive tool. And I put some WD-40 on that, and it helps keep that from getting all sticky at the end. Okay. One of my other tools is this little 1.5-inch, 2-inch, 12-inch long, 14-inch long piece of PVC. I use it for propping up the top piece. Why? It gives me access to two things. It gives me access to scrape all the putty off of the ends and off of the edges, and it gives me an opportunity to reach underneath and deal with all that fiberglass. That fiberglass is what's causing this sheet metal to corrode. Something is chemically reacting with it, but with the fiberglass to cause that to differentially disintegrate. It may be creating an acidic environment with the water. I'm not sure. I just know that what I see. And what I see is corrosion where I've got water and fiberglass together. So I'm trying to get as much of the fiberglass off between the sheets as I can, so it won't continue to disintegrate at an accelerated rate. So those are my basic tools for dealing with the panels and cleaning them. Essentially, I'm just dampening that rag. I'm taking the pistol grip sprayer and spritzing where you can see that fiberglass, where you can see the little bit of fiberglass there. I'm just spritzing that down. I don't want to be breathing it, and if it's wet, it's not airborne. It'll get in that rag, and that rag is easy enough to go around the corner and rinse off. This crowbar hive tool is a very good tool for scraping this putty. See if I can do this with one hand. What I normally will do is have one hand at the back and then one hand on the top over the front. So my left hand's at the back and my right hand would be pushing down here. And you can just take this, and once you get the angle started right, you can get it, and you can see it's coming up clean, and it's coming up pretty quick because we're at a good temperature regime right now, and you can just go right on down. Now when It's a little more difficult. Let's see if I can get this off of here. Well, it's kind of hard to do this without a tripod or anything, but when you're working with this and it's hard to push, I'm gonna pivot the phone over here, and what I'm doing is, here's my hand on the back of the crowbar and my elbow is up against my knee, and so I'll just leave my elbow up against my knee and I'll just use I'll lean in like I'm kind of squatting down, and I'm leaning in with my knee, and so I'm not having to push all that with my arm and my hand. I'm using my hand as like a lever, and I'm using my knee to go forward like this with my elbow in it and go forward like that. I know it's a bad shot, but that has worked really, really well. And with this hive tool, you can get a feel for it when it's right up against the edge of the metal but not digging in and running clean, and you can keep that angle, and it's a very well defined edge. I don't know if you can see that corner, if I can get it to focus in on that corner, but it works really, really well. Also, I put a little bit of WD-40 on this, and so you can see there's a little bit of putty on there, but it's not building up like it would. It's just not sticking to the crowbar. Let's see if I can get this to focus, and you can see that chisel edge right there before it goes back out of focus. So those are the tools and techniques I've used for cleaning it, and they've worked really well for me. Now I'm going to put you on hold for a second. Okay, gang, I'm back. I'm on the opposite side of the sheet metal now, and basically the easiest thing in this whole operation is unloading the sheets. Now, as you go down here, you can see I've got a big stack of long pieces, and I got a short stack of short pieces. The easiest way to unload that I found is I'm just using 1-inch PVC. You don't need anything real big or fancy. And when I'm finished, I finish usually from this side, but I'll still have the side propped up. And so when it's propped up, I'll just take this shorter piece of PVC, 1-inch PVC, that's about 4 or 5 foot long, and I'll tuck it underneath the panel. Then with one hand on the panel and one hand on the PVC, I can just kind of lift and flip a little bit and get the opposite end of the PVC to come all the way through on the panel, and then voila, the roller's underneath. Then I'll have that set down here. Then I have this second roller that'll do the same thing, and it's just short enough so it doesn't go all the way across. It doesn't go all the way across the trailer. And I'll do the same thing. I'll tuck that underneath and then flip it, but I'll also pull the sheet metal towards me when I flip the other end up, and that makes it possible to get this end to come up underneath that ridge on the panel underneath it. So now I've got 2 rollers underneath this whole big, I don't know, 18-20 foot sheet. So then I can basically just pretty much stand where I'm standing and just reach down and guide it until this corner of this panel goes down and lines up on that ridge on that panel, and those two rollers just slide on down, and it just slides on onto the panel, and it takes less than a minute, 2 minutes max. Now on the shorter panels, I don't need two rollers. I'll just use the one, and I don't need to get this corner over here. I just get this corner over here, and then rather than carry it, or I just kind of slide it down the edge of the long piece until I get down to there, and then just flip it down, and it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. So with the takeaways on that, I'm in southeastern Tennessee. We get a lot of dew at night. We get a lot of moisture. If you leave fiberglass sticking between the panels in that kind of a humidity environment, your sheet metal, your galvanized sheet metal is not going to last you. Not going to last you at all. Not very long at all. If you're like me and you're using recycled, what I've done is I've scraped up as much of the putty off of the top of each panel as I can. If there's still some putty underneath on the inside, well, at this point in time, I'm not going to deal with it because it's really, really awkward to try and get it out. But I have got a little tool that I've used, and this is just a little tiny, it came with a screwdriver set, right? So it's like a nail puller, brad puller type of hand tool. This will fit up like this inside this groove right here from the bottom, and you can pull out most of the putty up from underneath. But depending upon how I'm going to install it and use it, I'm not worried about it right now, because getting half of the putty out of there should be enough to keep it from trapping air, trapping as much moisture, and sticking to each other so it's hard to move. So that was basically what I was trying to do, was clean it and stack it so I can use it and reuse it without having to go super duper clean with a pressure washer or get everything absolutely off. But cleaning as much of the fiberglass off as it possible is going to be a good thing. So with that, gang, I do apologize for the images, but the information is just as valid. It just takes too much time to try and set up a tripod and really think everything through. I'm here. This is my place. I'm doing everything. So when I think it's something I'm going to try and do and I'm ready to take a little water break or whatever, I'll go ahead and tell you about it. If I can show you, I will. But a lot of this is going to be common sense. It's going to be custom to your environment, your situation. But I will tell you, gang, that WD-40 made a big difference. I will tell you, gang, using that hive tool crowbar instead of a paint scraper was a lot easier on my hands. I will tell you, gang, that spritzing down that fiberglass before you started moving with it, and I work upwind. So if the wind is blowing this way today, I'm going to start at this end of the panel and work the fiberglass that way, because the wind will blow the fiberglass away from me, not into my face. Those are just the kinds of things that you want to try and take into consideration and think about to keep yourself safe and to make things as simple as possible. The number one way to increase your profitability is to decrease your costs. The weather was cooperative the last week or so. My friends from church let me borrow, and they actually helped me load this whole stack, which was a pretty sizable stack. I mean, it's stacking tighter now with I got all that stuff off of it than it did before, but it took 3 of us carrying maybe, you know, 1 or 2 panels each load. It took 3 of us 2.5 hours to load the trailer. So you can imagine now I'm unloading the trailer, but I'm not just unloading it. I'm cleaning it, I'm scraping the putty, I'm wiping off the fiberglass, and I'm restacking it. So it worked out to be between 30 minutes and 45 minutes, probably closer to 45 minutes to an hour per panel. So it's been keeping me busy for the last couple of weeks. But it's a blessing from heaven, and I'm not gonna say no. So maybe I'll be able to get a she shed and have a place to get some of the stuff I've got stacked up in my greenhouse, put it someplace else so I can put more greens in my greenhouse next year. So with that, gang, I will wish you blessings for the day, and whatever you do, just keep chasing the dream.